Welcome to the red pages of history, where the past bleeds into the present and every page is written in the ink of true events. Here, we don't just tell you what happened, we take you there. To the streets, the palaces, the battlefields, to the very heartbeat of history's most dangerous moments. In the previous episode, we walked through the shadowed halls of ancient Egypt to witness the fall of Ramses III. Today, we open a new chapter, one written in gunpowder and blood, a chapter that would ignite the deadliest war the world had ever known. June 28, 1914. A warm summer morning in Sarajevo. Flags fluttered, brass bands played, and the streets pulsed with excitement. The heir to one of the most powerful empires on earth was here, smiling, waving, completely unaware that in the crowd, death was watching him. He was Archduke Franz Ferdinand, a man whose life was wrapped in gold and guarded by steel. But fate had a cruel sense of humor, because somewhere among the cheering faces stood a sickly 19-year-old student with a pistol in his pocket and a plan that would set the planet on fire. What happened next wasn't just an assassination. It was the spark that lit the fuse to the deadliest war the world had ever seen. A single bullet, and the dominoes of history began to fall. Stay with me, because once you hear how a wrong turn, a missed bomb, and a chance encounter all collided in one impossible moment, you'll never look at history the same way again. Archduke Franz Ferdinand was not your typical fairy tale prince. He was heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, a sprawling, creaking giant of a kingdom stitched together from dozens of nationalities, languages, and grudges. Born into privilege, yes, but also into a political powder keg. Franz was a man of contradictions. Stubborn, sharp-tongued, and famously difficult to charm, yet fiercely devoted to his wife, Sophie, a woman the imperial court never fully accepted because she was not of royal blood. Their marriage was a scandal in silk, and every public appearance together was a quiet act of defiance. By 1914, the empire he was destined to rule was fraying at the edges. Nationalist movements simmered in the Balkans, none more dangerous than in Bosnia, a province annexed by Austria-Hungary just a few years earlier. To the Slavic nationalists there, Franz Ferdinand was not a future emperor. He was the symbol of their oppression. And yet, in June of that year, he decided to visit Sarajevo, right in the heart of the unrest, to inspect military maneuvers. It was meant to be a show of strength. Instead, it would become a parade into the jaws of fate. In the cafes and back rooms of the city, a small band of young men whispered of revolution. Among them was a frail, determined 19-year-old named Gavrilo Princip. He had no army, no throne, no wealth, only a pistol, a cause, and the belief that one act of violence could change the destiny of nations. Close your eyes and picture Europe in the summer of 1914. Steam trains scream through iron stations, their smoke curling into skies already heavy with the scent of coal and ambition. In the great capitals, Vienna, Berlin, Paris, St. Petersburg, London, marble palaces gleam under the sun, but in the alleys behind them, the air is thick with the sweat of factory workers and the whispers of revolution. The continent is a chessboard of empires, each piece carved from centuries of conquest and compromise. Austria-Hungary, a patchwork giant of Germans, Hungarians, Czechs, Slovaks, Croats, Serbs, and more, is ruled from Vienna, but its seams are fraying. Nationalist movements simmer in the Balkans, where the memory of independence is fresh and the desire for it burns hotter each year. To the north and west, Germany rises like a steel colossus, its factories and shipyards outpacing rivals, its army drilled to perfection. Across the Channel, Britain watches with wary eyes, its navy ruling the seas, but its empire stretched thin across the globe. France, still nursing the wound of losing Alsace-Lorraine to Germany decades earlier, waits for a chance to reclaim its pride. And in the east, Russia, vast, unpredictable, and restless, stands as both ally and threat, its own people chafing under the weight of the Tsar's rule. Europe is bound together by promises that are meant to keep the peace, but in truth, they are tripwires. The Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy, pledging mutual defense. The Triple Entente, France, Russia, and Britain, united to counterbalance German power. These agreements are like loaded guns on a table. No one wants to fire first, but everyone's finger is close to the trigger. One wrong move, one insult too far, and the whole continent could explode. In Vienna, carriages clatter over cobblestones as officers in crisp uniforms stroll past cafes where the smell of strong coffee mingles with cigar smoke. In Sarajevo, the streets are narrower, the air warmer, the tension sharper. Posters in shop windows proclaim loyalty to the empire, but in the back rooms of taverns, young men speak in hushed tones about freedom, about Serbia, about a future without Austrian rule. Factories hum day and night, churning out steel, rifles, and shells, not yet for war, but as if the nations can feel it coming. Newspapers splash headlines about military maneuvers, diplomatic insults, and the latest colonial disputes in Africa and Asia. The public reads them with a mix of pride and unease. The Balkans are the empire's most restless frontier. Bosnia and Herzegovina, annexed by Austria-Hungary in 1908, is a land of mountains, rivers, and divided loyalties. To the empire, it is a jewel worth holding. To many Serbs, it is stolen land that must be reclaimed. In Belgrade, nationalist groups like the Black Hand train in secret, dreaming of uniting all South Slavs under one flag. Their members are young, idealistic, and willing to die, or kill, for the cause. Among them is a frail, determined teenager named Gavrilo Princip, who believes that one well-placed bullet can change the fate of nations. And so, as June 1914 unfolds, Europe hums with a deceptive calm. The orchestras still play in Vienna's grand halls, lovers still stroll along the Seine in Paris, children still chase hoops through the streets of London. But beneath it all, the ground is trembling. The alliances are set, the armies are ready, the grievances are old and deep. All it will take is a spark, a single act of violence to turn this fragile peace into a firestorm. And that spark is already on its way to Sarajevo. June 28, 1914, Sarajevo was dressed for a royal visit. Flags hung from balconies, soldiers in crisp uniforms lined the streets, and the sound of marching bands echoed between the stone buildings. The Archduke's open-top car, a gleaming dark green Greff and Stift, rolled slowly through the city, carrying Franz Ferdinand and his wife, Sophie. The air was warm, the mood, at least on the surface, festive. But beneath the cheers, danger was already in motion. Along the motorcade route, 6 young conspirators from the nationalist group Young Bosnia, trained and armed by the secret Serbian network known as the Black Hand, waited in different positions. Each carried pistols and grenades, each ready to strike. As the procession reached the Appel Quay, one of the conspirators, Nedeljko Chabrinovic, hurled a grenade at the Archduke's car. The driver saw it coming and accelerated. The bomb bounced off the folded roof and exploded under the next car, injuring officers and bystanders. Chaos erupted. Chabrinovic swallowed a cyanide pill and jumped into the river. But the poison was old and the river was shallow. He was dragged out, coughing, and arrested on the spot. Franz Ferdinand, shaken but unhurt, insisted on continuing the visit. He even went to the hospital to see the wounded, a decision that would seal his fate. After leaving the hospital, the Archduke's driver took a wrong turn onto a side street, Franz Joseph Street, and slowed to reverse. Fate could not have scripted it better for the man waiting there, Gavrilo Princip. Princip had missed his chance earlier in the day and was standing outside a cafe, likely believing the mission had failed. Suddenly, the royal car stopped just a few feet from him. He stepped forward, drew his FN model 1910 pistol, and fired 2 shots at point-blank range. The first bullet struck Sophie in the abdomen. The second hit Franz Ferdinand in the neck, severing a major artery. Witnesses later recalled the Archduke's last words to his wife, "Sophie, Sophie, don't die. Stay alive for our children." Blood soaked his uniform as the car sped toward the governor's residence, but within minutes, both Franz Ferdinand and Sophie were dead. Princip was seized immediately. Too young for the death penalty under Austro-Hungarian law, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, where he would die of tuberculosis in 1918. Other conspirators were executed or imprisoned after the Sarajevo trial in October 1914. But the true consequences were far greater. The assassination triggered the July crisis, a month of ultimatums, alliances, and mobilizations. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Russia mobilized to defend Serbia. Germany declared war on Russia and France. Britain entered the conflict days later. Within weeks, Europe was engulfed in World War I, a conflict that would claim over 16 million lives and redraw the map of the world. And so, a single wrong turn, a single pistol, and a single moment of chance became the spark that set the 20th century ablaze. History does not always change in grand halls or on vast battlefields. Sometimes it changes on a quiet street, in the space between 2 heartbeats.